All right. So welcome everyone, bienvenidos. Looking forward to this fantastic session. If you're new to HITEC, welcome. I'm Viviana Costa, the Executive Director of HITEC, and we are always super excited to bring this community together. If this is your first HITEC Live, this is a bi-monthly series where we bring together the Hispanic technology community to connect, share, and learn something new. So our sessions are informal conversations, so please turn on your cameras and be ready to share. This is where we get to hear from our partners and our community members on topics that touch on tech, leadership, and everything in between. A few housekeeping points before we get started. If you'd like, go ahead and rename yourself with your name and company. That way folks know what organization you're with. Please keep your cameras on, and this is going to be an interactive session, guys, so please feel free to use the chat or even voice your questions or comments directly to our panelists today. If you're not going to be speaking though, please remember to keep it on mute, because we don't want to hear those fun background noises that we get every once in a while. So our conversation today is going to focus on innovation that helps mitigate the misuse of tech, and tech has always allowed society to advance in many positive ways. However, sometimes it's resulted in some unintended collateral effects. And so today we're going to be joined by two entrepreneurs and innovators that are looking to use innovation to counter these effects. I don't want to give too much away, so without further ado, please allow me to introduce Joaquin Morixe, VP of Entrepreneur Relations at Globant, and Barrie Arnold, co-founder and CRO at Ping. Joaquin, do you want to take it away?
Thank you, Viviana, and it's a real pleasure to be here today. So guys, I want to share two stories today, okay? I really love to tell stories. I don't love to, sell things. And so two stories. First story, let's get back to 19 years ago, 2001. Get back to Argentina, live in the middle of a crisis. There were four friends having beer in a bar in Argentina. And these four friends had a dream. And they said, why don't we create a startup that builds technology, state-of-the-art, disrupting technology from Argentina to the world? And they did it. And they, at that day, 19 years ago, they founded Globant. If we, fast forward 19 years, right now, Globant is plus $8 billion public company. You can buy stocks from Globant in NICE. We are almost 30,000 Glovers around the world, and we have operations in more than 20 countries and more than 50 cities around the world. And we're really proud about that. So here's story number two. Around 1 year ago, two of the founders that are still really active, the four founders are still really active at the company, but two of the founders, Martín Migoya, which is the CEO, and Gilbert Englevien, which is the co-founder and the president of Globant Ventures, these guys are still very close friends. They were watching a TED Talk. And this TED Talk was about the harmful that abusing of the cell phone can be. And at that point, they have those, whoa moments. So they say, hey, we are tech builders, but we don't want to build tech that is creating harm. We want to build tech for good. We want to build tech that is not creating addiction. We don't want to build tech that is creating other, negative effects for people. So you say, what can we do? So at that point, they appointed a group of people, and I'm privileged to be part of that team that says, hey, we want to create a fund inside Globant that mitigates, that has the sole purpose to mitigate those collateral effects of technology. So that's what we did. Then we launched it like 9 months ago, and so far it has been an amazing journey that I will try to share with you part of those adventures. So basically, those that's story number two. So basically, let me tell you a little bit about this. So we believe that tech is inherently good. tech improved the lives of millions of people. It connects us, it's parts of innovation, and it enables us to reinvent ourselves and reinvent our industries. But when we misapply, technology can be hard for individuals, can divide communities, and can affect negatively big societies. And we must guarantee that technology remains a force for good. So that was the main purpose that drives the Be Kind Tech Fund. But of course, this mitigation of collateral or negative effects of tech can be very broad. We can be talking a wide range of problems. So basically, we focused on 5 topics. I want to go briefly through them, but of course, if you have any question, please interrupt me. So problem number 1, or facet number 1, online harassment and online abuse. Remember when we were kids, all of us at some point were bullied, but when we were kids, we have safe places. We have safe heavens. We can get back home and feel safe there. We can go to a friend's house. But now, if you're a cyberbull, you're followed to everywhere with your phone, and you're exposed to a bigger audience. So it's a big, very important problem that it's affecting a lot of teenagers. Problem number 2, data privacy and data security. Right now, almost 50% of users, internet users, feel that their data has been compromised, that their data has been, breached. We actually believe that data privacy should be a universal right, and we should fight for that. So that's facet number 2 that we are trying to mitigate. Problem number 3, AI bias. So again, we're tech builders, we love to build algorithms, but sometimes we don't know how biased we create algorithms. But some of the times we can, create the best, beautiful algorithms in the world. But if we fed those algorithms with biased information, the output is going to be biased as well. So we want to tackle that as well. Facet number 4, screen time abuse. And this is something that I know that it affects everyone, at least affects me. I have a friend that tells me every time the same story. It says when he arrives home and he has a daughter, and his daughter says, "Hey, Dad, listen to me." "Hey, I'm listening to you." No, listen to me with your eyes, because this guy is still looking at his phone. So, the phone is trapping us. It's like, and we need to do a lot of things about that as well. And facet number 5, and last but not least, it's all about information bubbles and polarization. We live in the most polarized world ever in history. It's happening, it's happening in Uruguay, it's happening in Argentina, it's happening in the United States, in UK, in every part of the world. Either you're here or you're here. It's nothing in the middle. And I believe that tech has something to do with that. So we are attacking that as well. So why us? Why Globant? We have a personal DNA. We are problem solvers. We love challenges, and we really want to step up on this. There are tech companies that are ignoring this, and that's fine. There are other tech companies that are profiting from this, and we don't like that. We want to take a third alternative. We want to mitigate these problems. So that's why we created the Be Kind Tech Fund, which is a $10 million fund in order to invest in startups that are, purposely mitigating one of these 5 facets of collateral effects of technology. Why we do it? We really believe in this. We really think this is going to be a big problem. We really believe that in order to attack this problem, we want to do it. We need to do it now, and we really need to convince a lot of people to do this. And we believe that we cannot fight this battle alone. So we don't want to monopolize this. We want to build a community around this. And this is like an invitation for all of you. If you really feel the same way as we do, so please, reach me and we can keep, open conversations on how we can create synergies around this. In fact, we are already evolving our concept. Is no longer the Be Kind Tech Fund. We are talking about the Be Kind Tech Alliance, because we already have other organizations that want to join us, and they are not only investors, they are universities, they are research centers, there are enterprises that are really feel the same way that we feel, but they don't want to invest in startups. So we still want to build something bigger here. And I want to stop here. I feel like I've been talking a lot. So I want to introduce you to Barrie. Barrie is a co-founder from Ping and is our proudly first investment from the Be Kind Tech Fund. Please, Barrie, go ahead.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the introduction, and great to see you all. And if you do want to turn on your cameras, feel free. If you don't, we're good the way we are. I'm originally from South Africa, and I moved to London in 2000, and that began my tech journey. And I've always been fascinated by how does tech advance where we are as a society. The very first internet startup that I worked for was an information marketplace. We were actually too early for the market, but it was a fascinating concept, which was anyone can be an expert in anything, from traveling to South Africa from the UK to an accountant, a lawyer, a health practitioner, a nutritionist, a personal trainer, or anything else. And what we discovered is that we could create a platform where anyone could list themselves as an expert and charge a per minute fee for their advice, so that the person on the other end of the line didn't have to go to an accountant because they had one question, or go and speak to a lawyer because they had one question that they were unsure about. And the long story around that was that we've created this massive global community of people that enjoy sharing their information with others for a reasonable amount of money. That company was eventually acquired by AT&T, but it happened just after I decided to move from London to the US, and I landed in New York. And I actually met my co-founder from Ping at an economic development dinner, and he had just brought his fintech business from South Africa with a very novel concept. One of the things that I learned in the first 9 months of living in this country, the US, is the amount of paper we get in the mail every single day. Bills and spam and everything under the sun lands in your mailbox. And we decided to revolutionize the billing industry by converting all of that needless paper into electronic documents. And so we started one of the first e-billing companies in the country. We also disrupted the space in that the majority of e-statements and e-bills that the banks were trying to force upon you resulted in you having to sign up for the service, remember a username and a password, and then go to their website so that you could see their bill in their environment, which really isn't an improvement on all of your bills being aggregated into one spot, which is your mailbox. So most people just said, look, you can give me e-statements, but I still want the paper, because at least I have a record. I've got a dial-up internet connection at home in 2005, and trying to find 3 months worth of history on the utilities website or the bank's website just didn't exist. And so we flipped the model and said, what if we could build a PDF that's encrypted, that looks exactly the same as your bill, and then you can print it, save it, store it, forward it, delete it on your terms? Would you turn off paper? And the industry went from about 2% adoption of e-statements to, in our world, 30, 40, and 50% adoption. And people started paying bills quicker, which meant more cash flow, quicker payment cycles. And so we were super excited about doing something with technology that was not only saving the environment, but saving a huge amount of time and energy for consumers as well. So I spent 9 years on that business, and then I was recruited to become the chief commercial officer for, and this might sound boring, a parking company. It was a mobile payments app. Anyone that's used pay by phone in Miami or Fort Lauderdale or San Francisco or Vancouver, an app that you can use to pay for parking instead of having to throw quarters into the meter. And when I started with that business, the number one problem that consumers had is that most meters in America still only took coins. And for a city to replace those coin-only meters was $10,000 per meter. And who's paying for that? The taxpayer. So we all carry credit cards. We don't have enough coins, but now we get to parking. We finally find the perfect parking spot, and now we don't have the money to pay for it. And so what Pay by Phone did was put a sticker on the meter saying, now you can use your phone to pay for parking. And you can get a receipt and a reminder that before your parking expires, we can allow you to pay for more time. So we were genuinely solving pain for consumers. We were also solving a huge amount of pain for cities who would otherwise have to go through an 18-month procurement process to get those meters in place so that they could now accept credit cards, which is the preferred mechanism for payment. We sold that business to VW in 2016. And at that point, my partner now from paying previous to my previous business in the e-billing and e-statement space came to me and he said, now that you work for VW, next time you're in Germany, find out what they're doing to stop distracted driving. Because I find myself looking at my phone all the time. I've got kids in the back seat, and here I am driving and looking at my phone. And I said, I do it too. So I went to Germany. I met with the digital team at VW and Audi, and I said to them, what are we, my new company, doing to fix this problem of distracted driving? Because I look around and everyone's doing it. And unfortunately, and fortunately, the response was, we don't make these. This is not our problem. And going through the thought process with these billion-dollar automakers who are creating these effectively weapons of mass destruction and allowing people to use their phones was a terrifying consideration for me with 3 young kids. And that was the impetus for us to start Ping, which is a voice platform that essentially does the opposite of what a billboard does on the side of the road saying, put it down, it can wait. Unfortunately, those billboards are practically useless. In fact, they're nothing more than another distraction because you're looking up and not looking at the road, and it's telling you what to do. And most human beings don't like to be told what to do. So we fixed the problem by looking at it from the consumer's perspective and saying, well, what is it about that notification that hits your phone that really drives you up the wall? And it's probably the sound, hence the name Ping. Ping, you got a message. Now somebody needs something from you, and should you look at it? Well, no, you shouldn't, but what if it's urgent? And we all have that same arm wrestle in our heads to say, if it's a message that's gonna change this trip that I'm driving down right now, I have to turn around and go back to the office, I have to turn around and pick up the kids, something's gonna happen. What is it that I should do about the problem? Maybe at the next traffic light, I'll pick up my phone and check for messages. Unfortunately, and here are some scary stats, 88% of us check our phones while driving. Last year, 57% of all collisions in the US had phone behavior in the last 3 seconds before the crash. And it's a global problem. But in the US, it's $129 billion a year in cost to the economy. That's insurance rate increases, that's medical expenses, that's fixing the vehicle, that's a commercial vehicle, a van, a truck that's no longer on the roads for a period of time, which means that company is losing money. And of course, there's no price tag on the value of a life. So we're averaging today 13 fatalities a day in the US from distracted driving. And believe it or not, the statistics in developing countries are much higher. In Mexico, distracted driving kills 32 people every single day, which is an absolutely horrific statistic. Why is that? Because it's a developing country, there are way more pedestrians on major roads, and there are way more cyclists and motorcyclists. Those are the vulnerable road users that typically end up with serious injuries or worse, fatalities. So what we did was we looked at the problem and said, if we fix the problem by reading that message out loud automatically without the driver having to do or say anything, we can give them the information that they need, eliminate that FOMO, that fear of missing out, and we can solve a whole lot of pain around efficiency and productivity while making the road safer for everyone. We've all done it every time our phone buzzes. In fact, if your phone buzzes today during this call, you're more than likely going to check it because we cannot help ourselves. And so that's part of the reason that Joaquin and his team have invested in Ping, is because we're genuinely trying to solve pain that every person with a smartphone is experiencing multiple times a day. The average person checks their phone 150 times a day. I heard a really interesting statistic or story the other day from the sergeant of our local police department who was giving a speech at the school. And he was telling parents, these things, most of your kids will have them in the next 5 years if they don't have them already. This is like a moving train. If you are not on that train with your child today and have an understanding of every single app that they use today, you've missed them because that train's going. You can be on the next train, but you will never, ever catch them. And that was a really alarming thought for us as parents to sit in that room and go, wow, I don't use Snapchat today. Maybe I should. Or my kid spends way too much time on YouTube. Maybe I should check to see what they're doing. So there's so many things about the use of technology that we really need to be far more consciously aware of. And when I look at the drivers on the roads, everybody knows it's illegal. Everybody knows they shouldn't check their phones, but they all have the same thought process, which is, well, I'm a better driver than most. In fact, in the US, 80% of people think they're better drivers than the rest. How's that even possible? 80-50? I don't know. Is there an 80-50 rule? The problem is we all think it's not going to happen to us until it does. And I'll give you a couple of stories. Last year in Florida, a truck driver driving an 18-wheeler was on his phone. The traffic ahead of him was stopped dead. He didn't stop. He crashed into 3 cars. A young man lost his life. And after a series of court cases, that trucking company was slapped with a benchmark fine of $1 billion, 1 billion US. It was $100 million to the family of the victim, which still doesn't repay the debt, and $900 million in fines for the 2 trucking companies involved. And as a result, both of those family-owned businesses are gone. They're out of business. It was a 3rd-generation trucking company that no longer exists because of one act of selfishness. When I talk to companies about distracted driving, I never use the word accident, because it's not an accident if you're on your device. You have the choice to not be on your device. So that's a terrifying story. What we found during the pandemic is that the gig economy and the delivery industry absolutely exploded. We went from doing our own groceries and going to our own restaurants to now saying somebody else can bring that to me. And so companies that previously couldn't buy customers, like the grocery delivery companies, Instacart and others, were suddenly hiring hundreds of thousands of drivers to go and do that shopping for them. The problem is those apps are constantly communicating with the driver. The customer can send the driver a message saying, don't ring the doorbell, the baby's asleep. Or the grocery store can send the driver a message saying, it's Bay 8 where you pick it up. They are creating distraction for that driver who's just trying to get from A to B. So we really have to inject ourselves into that process and say, what are they doing? What are they ignoring that we need to fix? And I'm going to shut up after one more story. I discovered the other day that Android Auto has a plugin for YouTube. You can watch YouTube in your car using Android Auto. It's not a legal Google certified plugin, but you can still download it and you can still have YouTube on your infotainment system in the car, which to me is madness. And there are companies out there that think that's a good idea and that somebody will pay for them. And unfortunately, they do. So let me stop there. A lot to digest, but you can obviously tell that I'm passionate about technology that solves a huge problem globally, as is Joaquin. So why don't we open it up with questions?
Come on, everyone.
Any
No.
questions, reflections, comments?
I definitely have a question, but it may be a little bit of a, I may be a little embarrassed about my question, but I'm gonna ask it anyway, if that's okay. And Barry, this is to you. With Ping, how does it actually work? Is it an app that I download? Is it something that you work with different companies that it goes across, like in working with Google or, phone companies, et cetera? Like, how does it actually work?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, and in talking to some companies that have a very sort of black and white policy, no phones while the engine's on, CarPlay exists, Android Auto exists. The problem is that it's a consumer solution that only reads text, no email, no push notifications, and it's not automated. So if you've ever tried CarPlay or seen someone using CarPlay, you have to tap on the screen just to get the message. And then this dialogue between you and Siri takes place, which in most cases results in distraction of between 30 and 60 seconds, where you're actually having a conversation with your infotainment system and you're not looking at the road at all. So we specifically developed our technology by going down to Washington, D.C. and meeting with the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and understanding their guidelines for distracted driving. The guidelines they set for auto manufacturers to say, how long am I allowed to take my eyes off the road to change the channel on the radio or to adjust the temperature on my air conditioning? And that number was 2 seconds. And so what we did was we built a system that can take any message, email, all email types, WhatsApp, text, Slack, Teams, the push notification that the DoorDash driver or Uber Eats driver gets, read that out loud without them ever having to take their eyes off the road. So it's eyes-free, hands-free, automated, and customizable. You choose which messages are read out loud and which messages are ignored. And if you have passengers in the vehicle, you put yourself in announce mode or passenger mode, and it will say, you have a new WhatsApp from Barry. Do you want to hear it? And you say yes, and it reads it out loud, or ignore, and it doesn't read it out loud. So the ability for you to really hone down on only the messages that are super important while I'm driving is the difference between this fairly weak consumer solution that Apple has built, where you cannot screen your messages and you have to tap on the screen, to one where a specific fleet company can say only corporate email and the Slack channel, nothing else. We've actually created the solution not so much for consumers in phase one, but for businesses, because businesses are where they're really hemorrhaging money. An insurance company cannot control whether you use your phone or not while driving. But you put the Ping technology inside the insurance company's app, and now they have customer engagement every single day. You engage with your insurance company every time you drive. And when a message comes in, it replies for you saying, I'm driving, but I've listened to your message, brought to you safely by geico.com. Now you know that I have Geico, which you didn't know yesterday. So there's engagement there. The DoorDash driver, the Uber Eats driver, even the Uber driver who's trying to tap on the screen to pick up the next fare, now gets that message as voice, as opposed to fumbling between the 3 phones that they have on the dashboard because they're multi-gigging. So we've designed it to be highly customizable, fully automated, and it reads in 105 languages. So global today.
That was going to be my question about language, because sometimes when I'm driving, I have, Siri, sometimes reading my text, but when they have to read in Spanish, it's terrible.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we read in 105 languages.
Awesome.
And does it respond back? Like, are you able to say what your response is and it would write that out?
It's a great question. And the short answer is you can reply, but you'll do so from outside of the Ping technology for 2 reasons. The first is that the voice to text technology isn't very good. And so if you've ever tried to dictate a message right from phone to your mouth, it still isn't perfect. Now you throw the road noise and the rest of the environment into the mix. It might be raining outside, there might be other people in the vehicle, and the person who's going to receive that message is going to really be quite confused by the garbage that you've just delivered to them. So not being able to control the voice environment is one of the reasons we've decided not to do it. The other is that the cognitive load on your brain means that if you're dictating a message, you're not driving the vehicle. And that's research out of the University of Utah. So we've created a couple of things. We've created voice commands and a big button that takes up most of the screen that allows you to call the sender back. The cognitive load on speaking to someone through Bluetooth or hands-free is much lower and allows you to handle that vehicle than you trying to spell out a message like, I will be there in 2 hours, period, start the meeting without me, period, and then having it read back. So we've done the call the sender back, and we've also got that auto reply, which is configurable. And that sends a message to the original sender saying, I'm driving, I'll reply when it's safe to do so, which eliminates the urgency for getting back. In fact, you can even say, I'm hands-free, call me if you need me. So that's the short answer to the ping solution. It doesn't actually stop the driver from using Siri or Google Assistant to reply. Interestingly, from our own defense, if you do use Siri and it comes out as garbage, you're not blaming us, you're blaming Siri. And you're just like, Apple, sorry.
I'm curious, from your other tech experiences and startups, what are some of the key lessons that you learned that you're looking to implement at Ping?
That's a very good question. And I don't know if we have enough time, but I think most importantly, stay true to your mission. And our mission is to save time, save money, save lives. And, if we've saved one life, we've won, but that's small fry. We really want to create technology for good. And everything that we build is downstream of that. And the other thing that I've learned is that you cannot do it alone. So you have to surround yourself by really smart people and really smart companies. And our distribution model today is partnering up with companies all over the world that have the geographic knowledge that we don't have, they have the language that we don't have, and they have the contacts that we don't have. And in many cases, the time zone benefits that we don't have. So I think having a really acute sense of partnership and the channel is a really fine recipe for success as you build a tech startup. You cannot do it on your own. You'll never have enough funding to build that all on your own if you want to accelerate growth at a global scale.
Let me add a little bit about that. And I love listening to Barrie, because at some point when we listen to startups and we have received, just to share some metrics, we have received almost 900 applications for the fund. Wow. And very often you find a lot of startups that they're going to succeed. Those are multi-million-dollar businesses, but they are not truly for a specific purpose. They have a very, profitable business model, but they are not pursuing a mission, a purpose, like Barrie just said. So really, it's very important for us to have a very strong belief in what you are trying to mitigate, just to reinforce that message.
Does the fund have any specific focus areas, or is it really just ensuring that there is meaningful impact or kind of social good? So
that's a very good question, Kelly. Thank you. So the fund doesn't have any focus geographically. We can invest in any country around the world, and we won't put any conditions like you have to move to Argentina to be invested. We don't not like to do that. The other thing is we don't have any focus. I mean, our main focus is you need to mitigate one of these, facets. Mm-hmm. You need to really believe in this problem, that there is a problem, and you might have a solution to mitigate that. Of course, in the middle, in the process, we're going to learn a lot together, and we're there, to join the startup team to tackle those problems in the road. But for us, there's no specific industries, there's no specific focus, rather than let's mitigate together these collateral effects of technology.
So I have a question. Right now, the industry is moving like very, very fast. And for example, right now, the industry is moving towards like having self-automated cars instead of people driving the car. So what should be the right approach to mitigate the issues that might comes with all this information? So for example, if a self-driving car has an accident, who's there to blame? The car industry or the person who's supposed to be driving the car?
Carlos, I think that's a very smart question, and I don't have a very straight answer for that. I absolutely believe that that's going to bring up a lot of questions, philosophical questions, like you just said. So maybe I can show you my opinion around this, and I think it's going to take us a long time to get into a point that, you know, the car is 100% automotive, and there's no responsibility in the user. I think that is going to take us a long run. In the middle, we need to face a lot of things, and we need to understand that in the end, we are the responsible. We are the ones that decided to get into that car and use that technology. And of course, technology gets better every day, and we're trying to build that kind of technology. But yeah, it's very hard to build a technology to you know, rely something so hard like a 100% self-driving car.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that. I think one of the big challenges that we all face is humans behind the wheel. A car cannot predict bad human behavior. So is a car looking for someone who's on their phone? I mean, I do it all the time before I change lanes. Not only do I look at the car ahead of me, but I look at the driver to say, are they looking down? I mean, you see people with reading glasses driving. There's no reason you should have reading glasses on when you're driving. But the artificial intelligence that is needed by an autonomous vehicle to predict bad human behavior is many decades away for the way that I look at it. When we started building this company and we started talking to investors, some of the more naive investors said, but autonomous vehicles are going to be everywhere in 5 years' time. So having your text messages read to you will just not be a thing because you won't be driving the vehicle. I personally don't know anyone that has an autonomous vehicle. I know people that have Teslas and they've tried them, but they are not even comfortable with the level of autonomy. The challenge is that they're extremely expensive, so really not viable for the average person on the road. And I think that what we're going to see with autonomy is that a phased approach where it'll be small shuttles or small delivery vehicles that are unmanned, or even potentially long haul vehicles, but urban traffic and traffic that's on rural roads just isn't designed for autonomous vehicles. So I think we're a very long way away from it. Carlos, to answer your question, I think I agree with Joaquin. We still have to have at least 50% of the responsibility for maintaining control of that vehicle. So should you sleep behind the wheel of an autonomous vehicle? Absolutely not. Should you be playing a video game behind the wheel? No. You still have the ultimate responsibility to keep that vehicle in its lane and on course when even when it's on autopilot, at least for the next 10 years.
A comment or a question around this. Very interesting, by the way, and I commend you guys for what that novel enterprise of what ends up being attempting to control human behavior. And so really the question from the legal perspective, when you start collecting data from an end user, and that data ends up in some type of a cloud, and it could become a legal, a part of a legal procedure in some court, some place. some of the insurance companies have implemented or attempting to implement some type of an app where they track, driving behavior and providing some discounts if they, if the client drives in a safe way. But they have not had much success with it. And from what I understand, the main issue is the fact that it's mostly legal. So have you thought about that? What are the legal implications on applications such as this?
So let me do this. If you wouldn't mind, if you have your video on and you own a car, do you allow your insurance company to track your driving behavior?
No, I don't.
I'll do this for me. It's a no for me.
No way.
Exactly. The big problem is we all think we're better drivers than the average, and we don't want our insurance company judging us. So do you exceed the speed limit by a couple of miles an hour? Yes, but that's because everyone else is. If I was adhering to the speed limit, I'd be in the slow lane and everyone else would be passing me and looking at me as if there's something wrong. The problem with the insurance model is that the upside for the consumer just isn't there. So they've said, hey, we've got an app that will track your behavior, and if you're a really good driver, we'll give you a discount, which in most cases in the US equates to between $40 and $100 a year. The flip side of that is you get all of my data. You know exactly how I drive, you get to analyze me, and you get to judge me, and no thank you. So that whole telematics model has failed miserably in Europe and in the US for consumers. It's slightly more effective in the commercial world for insurance because they're basically telling fleets, you can only be insured by us if you use our app, and we can provide you with this information on the back end. The other thing that they did really poorly was that it was a plug-in device rather than an app to begin with. So the plug-in device didn't give any visibility to the actual driver. Insurance companies were analyzing this information, and then they'd come back to you in 3 months and say, Barry, you're actually a bad driver, so your insurance rate went up. And at no point did they tell me that or give me an opportunity to improve. They're doing a slightly better job with the app in their showing the driver their score. And I know for a fact that that works, but penetration is very low because nobody wants it. They'll give it to their teenage kid in order to get a discount, but they won't use it for themselves. So there is that. And then, just data privacy in general, people don't like to share that information when there's not a whole lot in it for them. Interestingly, what we've done with Ping is we flipped the model on its head and said, we understand that we can get people to drive better if we show them how they drive. So one of the modules inside the Ping app and inside the Ping SDK is what we call driving score, where it shows you how you speed, how you accelerate, how you brake, if you handle your phone, and whether you adhere to the speed limits on a general basis. Most importantly, it shows the driver their own score so that they can consciously improve. And I know for myself, my score is continuing to go up incrementally because I get annoyed if I have one quick trip and it ruins my score for the rest of the week. But I wouldn't have signed up just for that service, particularly if the insurance company was looking at my data and judging. So we've gone to insurance companies and said, what about this? The one thing we know everyone is doing at some level is checking their phones for messages, even though they know it's illegal and dangerous. What if you, the insurance company, solve that problem for them first by saying, our app reads your messages, so you can stay safely connected to all those messages without looking at your phone. And then, by the way, we also have this other thing called driving score, and that will show you how you drive. And you have two options. You can see your driving score and not share that information with us. So we never get that information from you, but by you being able to look at your score on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, and the scores of everyone that operates that vehicle in your household, you can manage safety. Ultimately, the goal for us is safer roads. So if we show people how they drive, they have all of the ammunition to become better drivers. And then option two is, and if you share that data with us, we'll sign you up for our rewards program. And the rewards program is not a discount of $40 a year. The rewards program is a free cup of coffee every week that you're a good driver, tickets to the movies, gas cards, and other tangible rewards that you can cash in, because everyone loves free. I don't drink Dunkin' Donuts, but if you gave me a free cup of coffee from Dunkin' Donuts, I'd take it. because it's free, right? So the idea around gamifying safer behavior is quite simple. Just show people what to do and give them an opportunity to improve the roads for everyone else, and they will sign up for the program. How does the insurance company win? 3 ways. They get customer engagement. They use the app every single time they drive. The customer is no longer texting and driving, fewer claims, and they've signed up for the rewards program, which means they are inherently trying harder to be safer drivers, which again mitigates the insurance company's risk.
I just want to build on top of that. I think it was Flaminian question. Just to share something, Flaminian, we're getting some applications from startups that are trying to address the problem of the data and how we manage the data. And I think there is a shift going on. So from the time being, we're not owners of our own data. So we are in the internet and we just, gave away our data. We just navigate and everyone is getting our data and we can do nothing about it. I think it's going to be a shift in the near future. So we will start to own our own data, and we will start to decide either if we want to, give away our data and ask something in exchange or not. I think that slowly we'll start getting that.
And interestingly, one of the data points that we're looking at is all of the telematics, the behavior data around how we drive, accelerate, et cetera. The autonomous vehicle companies are buying up that data by the truckload because they're using all of that information and the GPS coordinates to see where traffic patterns get slow, get fast, whether there might be dangerous cornering or other conditions in specific areas of a city or a state that they can use to build into their algorithm. So it is very valuable data. The question is, are we knowingly sharing that information and what's in it for us?
Hi, this is Divya from Pyramid Consulting. Thank you for sharing that information. It has been I didn't knew about some of the people who have already got to a point where they're so used to e-billing, they don't even remember, but I have seen, and I'm from different country, moved here, migrated here years ago. I do see the usage of paper is really heavy in the United States. So thank you for that. And I don't have a question, I just have a comment. What Ping is doing, that's great because it definitely, everyone is guilty of getting distracted with their phone one way or another when they're driving at least once in a day, even for more than 5 seconds, but that happens. And the point which you just covered about the data privacy, that in future Ping is trying to kind of work with other entrepreneurs and companies who are taking initiative for data privacy. That is going to be huge because I do know, including me, a lot of people have a lot of concerns when it comes to data privacy. And when you have something, a net which is kind of covering it, it will definitely help a lot more business transition to be maintained in a safer environment while driving. So thank you for that.
And brings up a good point. One of the questions that we get asked a lot is, particularly by fleet drivers, is where does the content of my text message or my email sit? Is my boss reading the text messages from my wife? Is an email sitting in the cloud somewhere? The way that we architected Ping was quite clever and wasn't my idea. So I can say, well, I'm not the clever one, but how we did it was we used the phone's RAM to run the entire application for 2 reasons. Number one, it means that we can scale very quickly. We're not storing all the information in the cloud. And the other is that we're only looking at messages that are already on the device. We reach into that particular inbox, whether it's WhatsApp, Slack, or email. We grab the message, interrogate it, and say, should we read this message? Does it fall into the category of messages that should be read out loud? And then we read it out loud and put it back in that inbox. So at no point does any message content leave the phone and sit in the cloud, which eliminates the cybersecurity threat that a lot of these companies are concerned about, which is all of our emails are being stored by Ping or by somebody else. So when you're looking at the technologies that you build, think about it in terms of the pushback that you're going to get from big companies that you want to sell to, the enterprise companies like the insurance companies and the mobile operators. They are terrified. I'm in a conversation right now with Walmart around embedding ping in the Walmart driver app, which is called Spark. And I told them about the two big lawsuits that are happening right now in the US. One is a $100 million lawsuit against Amazon because an Amazon driver on his device changed lanes very erratically and hit a motorcyclist. I say fortunately, the motorcyclist did not die, but ended up having his leg amputated and spent 3 weeks in hospital. And so that's a $100 million lawsuit that Amazon just shouldn't have to deal with. And the slightly sadder one, more definitely sadder than that, a DoorDash driver was reading a message on her phone from DoorDash, and she went through an intersection and killed a pedestrian. And when the lawyers heard that story, they told her, you can go, we're going after DoorDash. And that's going to be more than $100 million. I told that story to Walmart, and they were absolutely terrified by the idea of the litigation that will happen to them if one of their drivers is caught on their device. And so that was really the impetus of our conversation with Walmart, is we can eliminate that risk for you, that huge lawsuit that is waiting to be had against you. And Walmart certainly had their fair share of bad press around drivers, truck drivers, and others. So when you look at the technology, look at mitigating the potential pitfalls of anything that you build.
Any other final questions or comments before we close out today?
This was just super insightful, and now I feel like I'm going to be a million times more mindful when I get in my car of not picking up my phone, which I think is a great challenge to all of us to take into the rest of this week, of not looking at your phone while you're driving.
Agreed, 1000%. This has been
just a final message, Vivian, if I may. So
absolutely.
Again, we're trying to create an alliance here. So if any of you at your companies or at your personal levels want to, help us and join us in this purpose, in this big target of mitigating these collateral effects of tech, please reach out. Please ask Vivian my contacts, and I'll be happy to.
You guys want to put it in the chat real quick? That way folks can grab it.
Absolutely. Happy to keep,
Beautiful. That way there's direct contact straight to you. I'm not bottlenecking anything.
So happy to keep chatting.
And the same for me. I've been in the tech space for 22 years. This is my 5th startup, and I'd be happy to answer any questions or brainstorm with anyone. So my email address is in there as well. Feel free to reach out.
Thank you. Thank you both so much. This has been such an amazing conversation, incredibly eye-opening, to be honest, as Kelly was sharing. And I'm personally grateful for the Pay by Phone app. Let me tell you, it saved me a ton of time in South Florida. People always say around Miami time, and I think that's like kind of carved it out in half. So thank you so much for that. But no, thank you both so much. Thank you also to the Globant team and the Ping team, not only for being here today and for the time you spent with us, but honestly for the effort behind all the work that you're doing to make this world a better and safer place. And so we really appreciate everything that you're doing, that you continue to do, and we hope that we have an opportunity to continue this conversation in the future. And to the rest of my HITEC community, thank you for being here. As always, you guys are always great supporters. Continue to connect, be in touch with each other, and we look forward to continuing this conversation at a future date. So thank you all so much for your time today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Have a great day, everybody. Thank you.